You're right to go, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome, councillors, executive leadership team, community members and council staff to tonight's ordinary council meeting. My name is Councillor Leslie Hewitt and I'm the Mayor of the Hepburn Shire Council. We would like to acknowledge we're meeting on Jara people country, of which members and elders of the Dja Dja Wurrung community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries. On this land, the Jara people have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. As we're undertaking this meeting virtually, I will read, on behalf of my councillor colleagues, the councillor statement of commitment to prevent any audio feedback occurring. Statement of commitment. We, the councillors of Hepburn Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of Hepburn Shire. Again, due to COVID current restrictions, tonight's council meeting will be conducted virtually. In the spirit of open, transparent and accountable governance, the meeting is being live streamed on Council's Facebook page, and you'll be able to view the proceedings of the meeting, councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting is also being recorded and will be made available on Council's website as soon as practicable after the meeting. Should technology problems be encountered and we're unable to broadcast this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned until resolution or postponed until the live stream can be re-established. In accordance with Chapter 6, Section 3 of our governance rules, a person, including any representative of the media, must not operate photographic, audio or video recording equipment or any other recording device at any council meeting without first obtaining the consent of the chairperson. And I also remind everyone that local government decision-making, unlike state and federal government, does not afford the benefit of parliamentary privilege, and hence no protection is offered to councillors and council officers for comments made during the meeting, which are subsequently challenged in a court of law and determined to be slanderous. As per ministerial guidelines for virtual meetings, councillors are required to advise individually whether they can see and hear proceedings and their councillor colleagues. I'll confirm to each councillor whether they can be heard. Councillor Bray, I'll start with you. Could you please confirm you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can confirm that I can see proceedings and hear and see all of my council colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Dryly, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Madam Mayor, I can hear proceedings and see and hear my colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Dryly. I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Simpson, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can see all my colleagues and I can hear the proceedings.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson, and I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Henderson, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see all of your colleagues?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I can confirm that I can see all my colleagues and hear all of the proceedings.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Halliday, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can confirm that I can hear proceedings and see and hear all of my councillor colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Halliday, and I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Hood, can you please confirm that you can see and hear all of your colleagues?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I confirm that I can see and hear all of my colleagues.
I confirm that I can see and hear all of my councillor colleagues. Mr. Thomas, do we have any apologies for tonight's meeting?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce council officers who are present in this council meeting. Mr. Bradley Thomas, our Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Andrew Burgess, our Director of Organisational Services. And welcome, Mr. Burgess, to your new role. Mr. Lee McCallum, a Director of Community and Development. Welcome, Ms. McCallum, and congratulations on joining the Council. Mr. Bruce Lucas, Director of Infrastructure and Delivery. Mr. Glenn Musto, our Senior Strategic Planner.
Glenn is an apology this evening, Councillor.
Thank you, Ms. Southey. Mr. Chris White, our ICT Manager. Ms. Kristen Forte, our Manager of People and Governance. And Mr. Bronwyn Southey, a Manager for Planning and Development. As required at any other meeting of council laws must declare a conflict of interest at the start of the meeting and leave the meeting when the item is presented to council. Councillors will be required to leave the meeting and return when the item has been resolved. Throughout this meeting, if a councillor realises that they have an interest, they can declare it at that point and follow the same procedure. Councillors, does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare? Councillor Dryly? What item on the agenda does this relate to and which section of the Local Government Act?
It's a general conflict of interest and it's the first item on the agenda, item 10.1, I think it is.
Thank you, Councillor Dryly. I too have an item, a general conflict of interest on item 13.3. Officers that are now present, can I ask whether you have any conflict of interest in any of the items presented before council tonight? No one hasn't. Good. We're now moving on to item 5 of the agenda. This is the confirmation of previous meeting minutes. I have a recommendation before us to adopt meeting minutes from council's previous council meetings. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 17th of August 2021, as previously circulated to councillors, be confirmed. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Henderson and Councillor Halliday. I'll put the motion. Do I have anyone who wants to speak against the motion? Then I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand and keep it raised until I call your name out. Councillor Henderson, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray, Councillor Dryly and myself, Councillor Hewitt. Can I have a vote for all those who are against the motion? Please raise your hand. Councillor Hood. So the motion is carried. Item 6, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion that have been submitted to tonight's meeting. Item 7, item of urgent business, and I understand that there are no items of urgent business tonight, Mr. Thomas. Thank you.
Correct, Madam Mayor.
We now move to item 8, which is the presentation of councillor reports, and item 9.1 is the Mayor's report, and I will, just a minute. I want to, my report tonight, I want to start along with Councillor Bray by acknowledging the passing of Mr. John Bond and recognising his contribution to the Hepburnshire community. John Bond was a well-respected pharmacist in Daylesford for around 25 years and was an active volunteer in many community organisations. John was a foundation member of U3A. He volunteered at the Daylesford Information Centre for many years, was involved in the Friends of Cornish Hill, and was a supporter of the Daylesford Museum, using his professional expertise to catalogue 800 drugs and items used in pharmacies and donated to the museum. Our community is poorer for his passing, and Council extends our sympathy for his family and many friends. Since the last council meeting, Hepburnshire have been in and out of lockdown with all the impacts that has had on members of our community, our residents, as well as the impact on our hospitality, accommodation, tourism and agricultural business. As you all know, we were notified of a positive COVID case in Daylesford on the 17th of September. And it's heartening to know from the relevant health authorities that the people and businesses involved were exemplary in how they implemented and managed their COVID plans, which meant that to date, there's been no further spread. I also want to publicly thank those of our council staff who stepped up over that weekend to support the Grampians Health Rapid Response Team in setting up the pop-up COVID testing site at Victoria Park. It's yet another example of the commitment to our community that our officers have and how they are willing to go the extra yard to help. The media's interest was considerable and reflects the importance of Daylesford and the Shire in Victoria's psyche. I feel like I'm on repeat, but I'm going to take the opportunity again to say to our community, yet again, get vaccinated, maintain social distance, wear a mask, hand hygiene, and get tested as soon as you show symptoms. Daylesford's experiences show that these simple measures can limit the spread of the virus. All of this places additional pressures on all of us. And in the meantime, all day-to-day activities continue in council as well as the storm recovery. This month has seen councillors and officers work on the annual financial reports and performance statements and the 10-year council plan, all of which will be presented later in the meeting. I'm pleased to report that I chaired the inaugural meeting of the Gender Equity Committee, and I'm confident that the members of this committee will make a significant contribution to addressing gender inequity in the Shire. In addition to the usual councillor duties shared by my fellow councillors, I've been involved in representing the Shire at various meetings and briefings, including the Fire Rescue Victoria, the CFA, Department of Justice, Australian Energy Infrastructure Commissioner in relation to the Western Victorian Network Transmission Network project, and various other local and state governments. I won't detail all of those meetings now, but rest assured that there's a lot of planning and activity that goes on in the background that makes this community a good place to live. Thank you. I'd now like to call on Councillor Henderson. Do you have wish to give a report, Councillor Henderson?
Yes, just a brief report, Madam Mayor. I had the good fortune to visit Doug Lindsay at the weekend, our recreation reserve, and observe the work being done on the scoreboard. And I must say that the builder actually was on site, and that builder has contributed something like $18,500 himself to that project out of his own pocket. And so that scoreboard is now, with the help of a small grant from the Hepburn Shire, now up and running. So that's a very good result. And I can tell you that it's a very, very professionally done job. I'd also like to report some of the angst in our community. And I know I sometimes joke about Creswick being on the way between Ballarat and Daylesford. Well, in this COVID case, it certainly is the case, and our community's very concerned because people live and work in this area, go to Ballarat, and then we have the through traffic from Daylesford who come and do the shopping, and so people have had a heightened degree of angst, and sometimes people just want to talk about it and how they feel. So it's a fairly difficult situation, and one of those jobs that councillors have to bear, to put on a bright face for people, because they're feeling very down. So that's all I wanted to report, Madam Mayor. There's not been much apart from that going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Hood, do you have a report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do. I've tabled my report with the council officers, so I'll read it and I'll keep my comments brief. Like you, in addition to attending to the customary range of ward issues over the past month, it has required significant work for all of us councillors on drafting and refining the council plan and compiling the associated long-term financial projections. The 2021 financial statements have also been drafted, and pleasingly, they have secured an unqualified audit report, so we know where we stand. Several key factors within the current and projected financial position underline the urgency needed to improve Council's financial viability and resilience. These factors include the current and projected underlying deficits, the very low level of unrestricted cash, which leaves little room to fund additional services or to provide a buffer against unexpected emergencies, the ongoing heavy reliance on grant funding, and the sheer scale of the number and dollar value of carried forward CapEx projects, which on current run rates equates to almost 3 years' work. So the financial outlook is a sobering factor when considering the ambitious nature of the proposed council plan and to balancing that outlook against the community's expectations. It is our responsibility to adopt plans at next month's meeting that not only advance the Shire for the benefit of residents and ratepayers, but at the same time stabilises Council's financial viability. I look forward to contributing to that work, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. Councillor Simpson, do you have a report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please see my report that I will table.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Councillor Bray?
Like many of us are aware, there was a recent COVID alert in Daylesford, and I just wanted to extend my thanks again to the emergency crew from the Shire that worked to put up the pop-up COVID testing site at Vic Park. And I also want to thank everyone who came out to get tested and their patience in the wait time. It just shows that Daylesford is a community that knows how to pull together, share information, support each other if people were in isolation. And I was really pleased to see that response from our community and support the sentiment of Councillor Hewitt in all the safe protocols we can take to look after ourselves and our families. I also want to say I attended the Western Victorian Transmission Network Action Group meeting to support and to work alongside community members who are concerned about the transmission lines. Council is putting together a submission to an environmental effects statement and will continue to work on that process to oppose that development. Also just wanted to highlight an issue that had come up recently in the Daylesford community around a parcel of land at Cornish Hill that DELP have earmarked as surplus and plan to rezone and sell. This has caused some concern in the community. I've had a bit of discussion around that with various community members, with the CFA, with the Friends of Cornish Hill and the Cornish Hill Committee of Management. Council will be putting together a submission towards that and looking at ways in which we could work with DELP perhaps to suggest from our submission a better way to look at that land parcel and to see if we can retain the road that is currently earmarked for sale. So working with community and council on that one. Also involved with the community vision and council plan work, hearing a lot of feedback from the community, working through that feedback so that we will have a final draft of the council plan for the next meeting. And also, as other councillors have mentioned, the long-term financial plan, which really is what is going to be able to deliver all of the strategies that we want for our community. So those two things go hand in hand. I also just attended an interesting event, which was the Ballarat Circular Economy Project launch last week, which is quite inspiring and great to hear how Ballarat are pursuing better ways of looking at waste management and resource recovery. And there's possibly some learnings for Hepburn as well in that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Councillor Dryly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've tabled my report, but I'll just briefly mention a few things. Again, it's covering similar ground to other people. Just reflecting as part of a workshop the other day that we did with councillors on my past 11 months, that just how impacted it's been in relation to COVID, and just how large that has figured in everybody's lives in the last little while. And just, just in terms of being a councillor, how that's impacted on my ability to be out in the world and engage with people and attend events that are, inevitably get cancelled at the moment. That can be frustrating, and I've found it quite mentally challenging at times. And I think we're all experiencing the loss of regular encounters and connection with friends and family and community. I'm also acutely aware of just how important it is to have resilient systems in place in these sort of circumstances. And I'm really feeling quite grateful, as our mayor has pointed out, and Jen Bray, that we have an excellent health services and local council operational team who can come together rapidly and put up a pop-up COVID testing station where over 300 community members can be tested, in a weekend. And just more broadly, just how amazing our doctors and nurses and health support staff are in these really trying and difficult circumstances. And look, on a personal front, having experienced the mildly uncomfortable side effects of vaccination, I just really am feeling, some comfort in knowing that I can emerge back into the spring sunshine again soon with a bit more confidence, and really would like to urge people who are still sitting on the fence on this issue to get vaccinated soon, so that we can all participate a bit more with this sense of security and strength within our community groups and settings in the coming months. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dryly. Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I basically didn't have too much to report this month, but I did briefly want to say that I'm pleased that we're spending a little bit more time on the council vision and the council plan. It's one of those documents that's such a big document that I think after a while of working on it, you get document fatigue. And so this is why it was so important to get all the feedback from the community and why it is so beneficial and appreciated. As Councillor Bray said, we're still working through that and really trying to utilise as much of that feedback as we can. So that's a big project that's still ongoing at the moment. I also attended the launch of the Circular Ballarat project and was equally inspired to hear talk of encouraging businesses to develop products that have the end of life of a product in mind, so that we're starting to produce products with a circular economy in mind. I think we're all fairly inspired to implement some of these ideas into our waste strategy and our sustainability strategies over the coming months. And yeah, I look forward to working with the community on that. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Halliday. So I have a recommendation that Council receives and notes the Mayor's and Councillor's report. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Simpson, seconded Councillor Hood. I'm going to put the motion to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Hood, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Bray, and myself, Councillor Hewitt. The motion is carried unanimously. Item 8.3, the Chief Executive Officer's report. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Been another busy month for the organisation, but for myself, I was able to take 3 weeks leave during the period. So my thanks to Bruce Lucas, who's in the acting role, and for the rest of the organisation. And the report is attached with a number of activities that were undertaken during that month, but I certainly can't take credit for all of them, and been fantastic to come back to an organisation really that's delivered a fair bit in that month, and encouraging people. I know it hasn't been the easiest to take a break and have some time off, not just in this organisation, but for many over the last 18 months, and encourage you if you get the time. Exciting time for our council. We enter into next month with the consideration and adoption of the community vision and council plan, but organisationally we start under a new organisation structure this week, a 3-director structure, which is really closely aligned to the councillors' priorities and the feedback from the community vision. So really excited about that. I would encourage the community to keep an eye out on our website. There is an incredible number of employment opportunities and vacancies currently across our organisation, across a whole range of skills and industries, and it'd be fantastic if a number in our community can look out for those opportunities and come and join us at Hepburn Shire Council. And as I said, once again, on top of the report, can I just take this opportunity to really thank both the organisation, the staff, our contractors and the community for the ongoing effort that we undertake during this pandemic, and coupled with for us to sort of have the natural disaster of the storm as well. So fantastic work over an 18-month sort of period with the pandemic, sort of ongoing opportunities for people to have to challenge themselves. We've sort of been through that yo-yo process, and the community and staff have been absolutely fantastic, and we continue to really deliver a high level of service. So thank you to council staff in particular, and working really closely with the councillors. The officer's recommendation is that council receives and notes the Chief Executive Officer's report for September 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I've got a recommendation that council receives and notes the Chief Executive Officer's report for September 2021. I'm in search of a motion. I have a mover, Councillor Henderson, and a seconder, Councillor Simpson. Anyone want to speak against it? Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise your hand. Councillor Henderson, Councillor Hood, Councillor Bray, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Dryly, are you? And myself, Councillor Hewitt. Thank you, and the motion is carried unanimously. Item 9 is public participation time. We have no petitions have been received ahead of tonight's meeting. There've been no public questions have been received for tonight's meeting either, and we've had no requests to address council that have been received for tonight's meeting. If anyone is going to speak in relation to planning items, they'll be heard in item 10. Item 10.1, PA 3151, development of a caretaker's residence. Councillor Dryly, Mr. White, if I can get you to put Councillor Dryly in the waiting room, please. The caretaker's Thank you. This is PA 3151, development of a caretaker's residence at 80 Albert Street, Creswick. I'd like to introduce Ms. Bronwyn Southey, who's our Manager of Planning and Development, to introduce the report. Ms. Southey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councillors. Hopefully I can be, yep, I'm off mute. Just wanted to triple check. This application is for the development of caretaker's residence, as said, at 80 Albert Street, Creswick, commonly known by the community as Leavers Hotel. The subject site, being 80 Albert Street, Creswick, currently contains a restaurant, dwelling and stables. The applicant proposes the construction of a caretaker's residence, which would result in a car park waiver due to the caretaker's residence being located where the original car parking was approved. Due to the planning decision not being made within the prescribed 60 days, the applicant has lodged a Section 79 failure to determine with VCAT, which is in front of Council tonight for consideration. This report is being presented to Council, seeking its support for the officer's recommendation to refuse the application. Council's resolution on this application will form part of the future VCAT proceedings.
Thank you, Ms. Southey. Are there any questions of Ms. Southey at this stage? No? Then we've got an officer's recommendation that I'll read, that Council resolves to refuse support of the application and the delegated officer to provide VCAT with a copy of the Council's resolution. Do I have a mover for this motion and a seconder? I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Henderson moved, Councillor Simpson seconded. Thank you. Does any councillor wish to speak against the motion? No. Councillor Henderson, do you wish to speak to the motion? You don't wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Simpson, do you wish to speak to the motion? Can you just unmute yourself, Councillor Simpson, please? So we.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? In which case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Hood, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Bray, and myself, Councillor Hewitt. Any councillors against the motion? Councillor Halliday. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll just wait for Councillor Drylie to be brought back into
Madam Mayor, just admitting Councillor Drylie now.
Welcome back, Councillor Drylie. Can see and hear you. The next item on the agenda is 10.2.
Madam Mayor, point of order, Madam Mayor. Could you inform Councillor Drylie of the...
Oh, thank you, Councillor Bragg. Councillor Drylie, the officer's recommendation was passed that Council resolves to refuse support of the application and the delegated officer provide VCAT with a copy of Council's resolution.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Item 10.2, PA 3227, the application for a two-lot subdivision at 90 Roses Lane, Clunes. Ms. Southey, could I ask you to introduce the report, please? But if you introduce the report, and then we'll call the people who have requested to address the council regarding the application once you've done that.
Not a problem. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to start, I'd just like to raise that there was a typo which has been raised. So the item is for PA 3227 for the two-lot subdivision at 90 Roses Lane in Clunes. The mistake is on page 32 of the agenda. The correct planning number is PA 3227, not PA 2865 as detailed in the officer's recommendation. This has been sent through for the correction in the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Southey.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is for council to determine planning application PA 3227 for the two-lot subdivision at 90 Roses Lane in Clunes. The application seeks approval for a two-lot subdivision of existing 6.99 hectare allotment into two allotments of 2.9 hectares and 3.19 hectares in area. The application has been referred to council because we have received 23 objections. The application achieves a high level of compliance with the relevant sections of the planning policy framework, the zoning and overlays that affect the land. Following consideration of the relevant planning provisions, comments from referral authorities, and on the grounds of objections, officers recommend that a notice of decision to grant a planning permit be issued subject to conditions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Southey. Now we have a number of people who wish to address council on this matter. Mr. White, can I get you to admit Ben Mountford and Jenny Courtney, who have requested that they speak in objection to the application.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, just admitting them now.
Thank you. Who have requested that they speak in objection to the application.
Hang on there.
Um,
Can you just pause the live stream that's going on in the background to stop any Can you just pause the live stream that's going on in the background to stop any
Okay. Welcome, Miss Courtney. We appreciate you taking the time to address us on this matter. You'll have 3 minutes. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity of speaking tonight. I'm the newest member of Roses Lane being represented tonight, in that we haven't actually built our property, but we've bought some land across the road from the proposed subdivision. So what I feel like we're representing tonight is the prospective resident of Clunes, and what Clunes stands for us is escaping the hustle and bustle of downtown Ballarat and moving to a beautiful, historic and creative rural setting. So in particular, we have the personal objections around the concerns for the development in terms of access directly outside our property, with the creation of a driveway that will need to service 2 properties. Also concerns around the septic system and the requirement for a creative or a less popular or less mainstream septic system, and what that could look like in case of any failings of that as we're downhill from the property. But in particular, I guess, in representing our new neighbourhood, it's around the precedents that it sets for Clunes and the subdivision. And in terms of marketing Clunes as somewhere to move to or somewhere to come and visit with the burgeoning tourism, noting Councillor Hood's mention of the financial viability and sustainability of the Shire. You know, we really need to think about how we sustain and maintain this unique rural and historic setting, and not subdivide and subdivide and subdivide as we've seen elsewhere. So I guess our opposition is more around that strategic intent and that guarantee that if this rather conservative subdivision goes ahead, what does that mean for future prospects of changing the nature of the neighbourhood?
Thank you, Miss Courtney. We really appreciate you coming and speaking to us and letting us know what your objections are. Does anyone have any questions of Miss Courtney? No, well, I just thank you again. I'm assuming that you're speaking on behalf of Mr.
That's
Mountford
right.
as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And once again, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Your objections, but for speaking to us. Mr. White will remove you from the meeting now and invite Mr. David Scott to speak in objection to the application.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, just admitting Mr. Scott.
Hello and welcome, Mr. Scott. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, right. Can you hear me now, Mr. Scott?
Yes, I can, sorry.
Excellent. And so you're going to speak about your objections to the application at 90 Roses Lane.
Yes.
And you've got 3 minutes. So thank you.
No worries. Yes, look, I'm in opposition to the proposed subdivision as well. We've been through this before, and we like our street the way it is. I'm a police officer, and I don't say that for anything other than I come here to live in a nice, peaceful, quiet area. I work shift work, the street's nice and quiet, and opening up to subdivision concerns me greatly that it can open up to subdivision further and further, which puts a lot more pressure on the road, on the noise and the aesthetics of the street. And my wife also rides horses around here, so she can ride straight out the front gate with, you know, little or no traffic to bother her, and it's going to change what she can actually do from here as well. And the further you get up the street from us, the bigger the blocks are going, which is where that subdivision is. And if that opens that up, there's much more land up there that can be opened up for further development, and all that traffic will come past our end of the street, because we've got the bitumen end of the street, and all that traffic will come past us. So it's quite concerning that we're going to lose our peaceful little street if the subdivision goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. We really appreciate you coming and telling us what your concerns are. Do any councillors have any questions of Mr. Scott? No? In which case, I'll just thank you and your wife again for coming and letting us know what you're objecting to about this application. Mr. White will remove you from the meeting, and we'll wait for the next people. Mr. White, can you admit Ms. Vanchi Mertens and Mr. Sayed Salimpur, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just admitting them now.
Hello, Svanchi, can you hear me?
Just one moment. Yes, I can.
And can you put your video on, please? Oh, thank you. And I have to, first of all, thank you and welcome for coming and speaking to us about your objections. And apologies if I haven't pronounced your name correctly.
Svantia, no worries.
Okay, you've got three minutes to
Before I
talk.
begin, could I just ask, my partner allocated his time to me. May I have just possibly a little bit extra time if I go over? Is that all right?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Up to
So
6 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, councillors, thank you for taking the time today to hear our concerns about the subdivision for 90 Roses Lane. We are all proud residents of Clunes, and I'm sure you all appreciate the beautiful historic township in the area from Clunes. My partner and I, we moved to Clunes to enjoy the rural lifestyle with the animals, plants, peace and quiet. We could garden and grow our own food and live sustainably, planting flowers for the bees and food for us to eat. And we could look after the land and care for the native animals and vegetations along Kilkenny Creek. We could enjoy the night skies where we could get away from the hustle and bustle of the cities, where we could have a place where we could call our home. We want to protect this way of life. We want to protect our home. Roses Lane is a thriving neighbourhood community, and almost all the residents living on Roses Lane have sent in objections for this proposed subdivision, all are keen to preserve what we have here, what we greatly value. The subdivision allotment, which would bring increased traffic and noise, as well as a safety concern on the roads for children, for people riding horses or with bikes. But I think very, very importantly, as has already been pointed out before me, there is a very real risk of this being the floodgate for further subdivisions. This concern is giving residents, such as myself, sleepless nights as you wonder if it's soon going to be an uncontrolled Melbourne or Ballarat urban sprawl or a miner's rest. This is not what we want. This subdivision is driven by short-term financial gain for an individual at the detriment and expense of the community. Although some may argue that this is an isolated case, we, the residents, strongly argue this one subdivision leads to a domino effect, which would more developers could come and take advantage of this short-term financial gain. There are also concerns for the two proposed allotments. In one section of the application, there is an incorrect address, making us question the very validity of the assessment itself. The soil tests state that there are drainage issues, and they are that their risk is to do with the wastewater and leakage and overflow possibly into neighbouring lands. And it can be seen as I walk past 90 Roses Lane that the water already pools into swamp-like areas at the front of the land. The poor drainage is extreme, and I have very great concerns with both our property, which is diagonally opposite, and the property directly opposite in regards to receiving this wastewater overflow. And there is no certainty that planned mitigation measures will be adhered to, posing threats to health and well-being of adjoining low-lying properties opposite and to Kilkenny Creek below. We are not confident this has been sufficiently addressed. Unnecessary and unwanted subdivisions on difficult sites like this is exactly what the Hepburn planning scheme is intended to discourage, from my understanding. A local town planner once said that it is a well-established principle of planning that just because a permit can be issued, it does not follow that it should be issued. And just because a subdivision may on the surface tick the boxes does not mean that it should be allowed. Good planning ensures that the wishes and concerns of the community are taken into consideration. We are your constituents asking to be heard. We are the residents of Roses Lane, striving to protect our country lane, our neighbourhood character, our way of life, and our homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and talking to us about what your concerns are. Does any councillor have any questions of Ms. Mertens? No, well, once again, thank you very much for coming and letting us know how you feel about this proposed subdivision. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to do so eloquently. Mr. White will now remove you from the meeting. And Mr. White, if we could have Mr. James Curzon-Siggers, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Admitting James now.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, hello, Mr. Curzon-Siggers. Can you hear me?
Hey, Soph.
Yeah. Can Mr. Curzon-Siggers, we can see and hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you. There is a bit of echo, so if you're live streaming,
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you and we can see you.
Right.
You need to turn off.
There's a
bit of echo, so if you're live streaming.
Okay, are we good?
I'm
having trouble hearing you.
No, can you hear me now?
Okay, are we good? I'm having trouble hearing you.
No, can you hear me now?
Hello, James. Chris White here from Hepburn ICT. You just need to stop the live stream that's running as well, because that comes back, the delay comes back through the microphone. So.
Okay, I'll stop that. Yep, done. Let me get out of this. All right, I'm out of it.
Okay, so now you should be
okay,
able to...
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey, Soph, can you help me here? I'm on now, but I can't seem to.
We can hear and see you.
Just need to turn the volume up on that
side, I think. I just don't seem to be able to hear them on this.
So you can't be heard at all. Okay.
We should talk to them so they can hear us.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
You can't hear the sound, or you can't be heard.
No, we can hear you.
No,
I can hear you.
Okay.
Chris, you got any suggestions?
I can hear you. Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All righty, okay. Shall I just fire away?
You're just far away. Thank you for coming. You've got 3 minutes.
Good evening, councillors. My speech will focus on how this proposed subdivision fails the test of respect for existing neighbourhood character and how it fails the test of good planning. The planning officer has presented you with a risk-averse recommendation. She has delegated to you the complex judgments that good planning requires. For a start, good planning rejects a one-size-fits-all approach. Good planning recognises there are very different LDRZ precincts within Clunes. Not all LDRZs are the same. In this instance, there are LDRZs and there are LDRZs and there is Roses Lane. This is not a classic 1970s subdivision LDRZ where people have 2 acres of grass to mow around the house. These blocks are used for a wide range of commercial and non-commercial small-scale farming activities, as my fellow residents will detail or have detailed. This is much more like an RLZ, a rural living zone precinct. Not all LDRZs are the same. Accordingly, good planning accepts that just because a permit can be issued, it does not follow it should. The Roses Lane LDRZ is different precisely because it was not a classic 1970s style LDRZ subdivision. All the titles were created around 1860 by the Crown Surveyor. Over the 19th and 20th centuries, there were amalgamations. These were amalgamated into larger properties. In the 1970s, with the green light from council, the original 1860 freehold titles were sold to individual owners on the basis they would get a permit for one dwelling on their block. In short, this aspect of neighbourhood character has remained unchanged for 160 years. And it's that 160-year-old pattern of lot size and what it makes possible that has created something special and valued in terms of existing neighbourhood character. And it's why locals near unanimously opposed this application, as they did the previous one in 2016. Locals know if a subdivision is approved, it will be the thin edge of the wedge. Short-term private financial gain will trump good planning. Indeed, the report commissioned by the non-resident owner-developer acknowledges the existing neighbourhood character will be compromised irreparably if it's the thin edge of the subdivision wedge. And thus, another aspect of good planning is that it recognises the unintended consequences of bad decisions. Councillors, there are many, many planning grounds based solidly on the policies in the Hepburn planning scheme for rejecting this application. I urge you to do so, just as your colleagues did in 2016. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Curzon. And does any councillor have any questions of Mr. Curzon? No, then thank you very much. We appreciate that you've come and taken the time to so passionately tell us what your objections are to this proposal. Mr. White will remove you from the room now.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay. Councillors, I've got an officer's recommendation that before us. I'll just read it out. The council makes a determination to issue.
Madam Mayor, excuse me.
Oh.
Do we have an opportunity to ask questions of the council officer? We didn't get to do that.
Oh, okay, sure. Sorry, I thought we'd done that. Councillor Bray, do you have a question?
It's yes. Now, in new light of that evidence regarding the subdivision that was previously designed to increase lot sizes, the fact that LDRZ was suggested to be more similar to a rural living zone. Is there a precedent for that in our planning scheme to take that into consideration?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bray, whilst I acknowledge the very valuable points that the community has raised in this context, the lot sizes proposed actually are quite reflective of a rural living zone size. 3 hectares is still quite substantial considering low residential density can go down to approximately 4,000 square. So and 2,000 square in some areas as well. So on this basis, the approximately 3 hectare lots are quite reasonable in that context, considering that low density residential can actually go down to quite a bit smaller. This once again does highlight the absence of our strategic context, because in the absence of a strategic framework, we are unable to make any sort of weighted assessment apart from that within the provisions of the scheme. And so the officers have undertaken in accordance with the scheme and determined to recommend support for the subdivision.
Councillor Bray, any further questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Southey, for that response. So I'm hearing that if we had our planning scheme in order with a thorough settlement plan, with our zones well assessed, there's a possibility that this may have a different kind of response might have come from officers if we had have done that work years ago. We're finding ourselves once again in a limbo land between best outcomes because our planning scheme is out of date. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I've raised the absence of strategic in relation to that further context, but the reality is, as I said, the lots are quite generous for a low density residential zone. So I can't comment as to whether not they wouldn't be approved. So it's a little bit of a tricky one, but for what we've got in front of us, officers consider it as appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Southey. And Councillor Henderson, then Councillor Halliday.
Yeah, so I was one of those people in 2016. So for consistency's sake, I need a bit more information. We're talking about the low density residential here, but is it so that in our, what is the lowest we should go in rural living zone? I know around Creswick it's you're not allowed to go below 20 acres. So whatever that extrapolates to these days, have to forgive my age, Ms. Southey, but
8 hectares, councillor.
8 hectares. So is that the limit same limit in Clunes in rural living?
Apologies, councillor. I'm not sure if there is rural living in Clunes. I've just got the maps in front of me. I can clearly see low density res. I can see we've got farming zone. Rural living. We do have rural living on the other side. I would have to double check the provisions in the scheme. So I apologise. I'll have to take that question on notice.
Notwithstanding that, my understanding of Clunes, and I have a very good understanding of Clunes, probably as good as any. My understanding is that one of the things that's highly considered in a township like Clunes is the neighbourhood character. And if we look at Roses Lane, there is a neighbourhood character there. And it's not one that is subdivided so often. And perhaps is it so that the planners are dealing with exactly what's before them, with really no discretion other than the planning scheme to say this fits the bill and this ticks the box here and it ticks the box there. Is that the basis on which that was formed, or do you have any discretion to look at the actual neighbourhood character in relation to what's already there and what has historically been there, as Mr. Curzon-Seggers has pointed out, since the 1860s?
Through you, Madam Mayor, character is one of these considerations that are very important to the development of localised towns and so on. In this case, the officer has assessed against the zone in the context of this area, undertaken a site inspection and determined that what is proposed is compliant with the planning scheme. We don't have additional character provisions and strategic framework in that context, and therefore it needed to be assessed and determined in accordance with the scheme, recommended in this case.
Thank you.
Councillor Henderson, is that you've finished your questioning? Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, Madam Mayor, I've got another question for Ms. Southey. Back in 2016, do you remember how many lots that subdivision was for? Like, I seem to remember that it was something like 8 or 10, but I'm not 100% sure. And while you weren't able to quickly look it up, I looked it up, and the rural living zone in Clunes is also 8 hectares, Don.
Thank you, councillor. Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure how many lots were proposed in 2016. I apologise, councillor. I can take that one on notice and come back to you, but I just I'm not on the actual system to be able to access that on the fly. I apologise.
No worries. Thanks anyway.
Councillor Halliday, do you have any other questions? Does anyone else?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Councillor Dryly and then Councillor Henderson.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor, just for you. I'm a little bit confused about the different lot sizes that we're talking about. Could you just clarify, Ms. Southey, the difference? We're obviously talking 3 hectares versus 8, and how does that actually fit in this instance?
Absolutely, councillor. Great question. Through you, Madam Mayor. We're actually, so in the case of this application, it's low density residential. So the minimum lot size can go down to around 4,000 square, which is about approximately half a hectare. Or an acre, in 1 acre in its entirety. What the community and some of the councillors have raised is that perhaps it would be more appropriate as rural living zone, which has a minimum lot size of 8 hectares. But just to be clear, whilst that is, it may be considered more appropriate, that's not the zoning that we're considering this development in at the moment. So in the absence of any rural agricultural land use strategies and settlement strategies, we're unable to apply different zoning to this site, and it is low density residential zone.
Thank you, Ms. Southey. Councillor Jolly, is that?
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
Ms. Southey, sorry to badger with questions, but having heard what you've just said, is there anything stopping any of those properties along Roses Lane, including the subject property that we're dealing with now, is there anything stopping them from applying for further subdivisions, or in fact, a plethora of applications from other people along Roses Lane based on the fact that it is low residential zone? And so could we see a plethora and have the very scenario that we've got in places like, well, not Miners Rest, it's closer developed, but some of the other areas where we see perhaps regarded as development, but in Clunes would be regarded as overdevelopment, even if it's legal. So getting back to the point, just because we can, should we?
Councillor, it's a very valuable point, and I guess as you would be aware, in your experience, a number of decisions come into a recommendation with the planning recommendation, and this, one of the major ones in this area is the appropriate waste disposal. And I know a number of the community members did raise that as a concern. And as part of a subdivision application, they're required to undertake a land capability assessment. So just park that for a second. The reality of the low density residential zone is that there is the capacity for further subdivision. I would say if it was going to happen, it would have happened if we were going to get a flood of applications. Then why hasn't it happened to date? That's not me claiming ignorance, because we are going to be undertaking a lot of the strategic work to help strengthen areas like this. But in the absence of this, these areas could have been subdivided further and haven't been. One key protection measure they do have in place is that wastewater treatment. You wouldn't be able to intensify as greatly as some like low density residential zones could be, just because of the constraints around waste disposal.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson, do you?
Absolutely, fine.
All right. Are there any further questions? Councillor Hood.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for Ms. Southey. You might realise I'm a person that likes numbers, so I just want to make sure I get the numbers right on this. This is proposed as a 2-lot subdivision. One of them is just a tick over 3 hectares, the other just a tick under 3 hectares. So in round figures, they're about 7,500 square metres each. Would that be correct? And
sorry, councillor, 10,000 square per hectare, so you're looking at 30,000. 30,000 square metres.
Each of the 2 lots?
Yeah.
And about 30,000 square metres. And you've mentioned several times that under this particular zone, the minimum lot size is 4,000 square metres. So am I correct in interpreting then that each of these 2 lots could be subdivided into about 7 lots each? 7 lots of 4,000 being 28,000, close to the 30,000 figure you mentioned.
Councillor, very valuable point through you, Madam Mayor. As I sort of mentioned to Councillor Henderson just before, there is the ability through the base zoning that these lots can be subdivided further, but there are a number of considerations such as appropriate wastewater management and so on being able to be achieved on the site. As I understand, the units proposed for these lots, as identified in the land capability assessment, were more specialised than possibly some of the standard septics that go in, which reflects that the land may have restricted drainage abilities and so on. So, and obviously there are other considerations within the area. So technically on a basic mathematical perspective, yes, 30,000 you could subdivide, you could definitely intensify further, but there are other considerations that we would have to look at, such as environmental factors, etc., etc.
Sure, I appreciate that explanation. I'm on the one hand, I just want to deal with what's before us, but like the residents, I also would like to keep in mind the bigger picture as to what could be possible down the track. So it's a big difference to look at a 2-lot subdivision at the moment and consider it's just 2 lots. It's quite different if they could be 7 lots each, and we're looking at a 14-lot development not too far down the track.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. Are there any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Southey, for answering all these questions. My comment would be, thank you, councillors. You've clearly taken note of what the various objectives have said to us. We understand, if I can sum it up, that the proposed subdivision does fit the planning scheme as it stands. There's a high level of compliance, but as the objectives have pointed out, there are a number of other things that we could take into account with that as well. So I have a recommendation before me, which I'll read out, that council makes a determination to issue a notice of decision to issue a planning permit at 9 Roses Lane, Clunes, in accordance with the following recommendations and conditions. The council, having caused notice of planning application PA 3227 to be given under Section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, and having considered all the matters required under Section 60 of the Act, determines, to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for a 2-lot subdivision at 9 Roses Lane, Clunes, subject to the following conditions, which were detailed in the report in the agenda. That's the officer's recommendation. We've heard from the objectors, or several of them. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Bray?
I have a motion that I'd like to put. The motion is to refuse to grant the permit. I do not have clear wording on that, sorry.
So council makes a determination to refuse to issue a notice of decision to issue a planning permit at 90 Roses Lane, Clunes, and then et cetera. So is that clear? Councillor Bray is moving a motion to refuse to grant the permit. Do I have a seconder to Councillor Bray's motion? Councillor Henderson. Thank you. Councillor Bray, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Thank you. Briefly, Madam Mayor, I'm hearing the precedent that we might be setting, given the time frame of our settlement strategies coming out of the Hepburn Planning Scheme, the new Hepburn Planning Scheme, which we have adopted. It seems the timing is not ideal for us to go ahead and set a precedent for a subdivision in this area when it is possible that in a year we may look at this land as something we would like to rezone to a different zone. So on that basis, I would not support the granting of this planning permit.
That's why you've moved your motion. Councillor Henderson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I support Councillor Bray with some reluctance because perhaps we should have sought an alternate motion which would have given the the officers the opportunity to say why we're refusing this, and that would be then made part of our motion to refuse, which puts them in a difficult position. I accept that. However, I wasn't in the receipt of the arguments put by the people tonight. I did read all of the objections, and I took particular note of them. But the idea that something has been around since 1860 and has served good purpose, and the idea that there was some neighbourhood character attached to this, and I'm very aware of what neighbourhood character actually means. So I think that we should perhaps be more careful in the future with what we do, but that doesn't mean to say that we should disenfranchise the objectors on this occasion just because we haven't had our ducks in a row, perhaps with our motion to refuse. That puts a burden on our officers to back our situation up. But anyway, I commend this to my colleagues. I think we have to retain perhaps the feeling of the rural area that Clunes is so famous for, and many other areas in our shire. There's plenty of other places to develop in the world without developing it in Roses Lane. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I noticed that our CEO has appeared. Mr. Thomas, and I note you have got your hand up, Councillor Halliday. I'm just allowing Mr. Thomas the floor at the moment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and respect that. Madam Mayor and councillors, a councillor, if they were of the mind, could suspend standing orders, and we could pause the live streaming and discuss this offline if that was necessary to councillors. Don't have to, but just reminding the Mayor of that availability if you wanted to seek further clarification of officers around the potential options other than the motion put forward, if that's what councillors wish to do, just an option.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Noted, which may well answer Councillor Henderson's point about a different motion that might include some other aspects to it. Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I wanted to thank everyone who presented tonight. It's a really tricky situation here because of our planning scheme and the fact that it hasn't been updated in 20 years. I think Councillor Bray's made some very good points that, it is likely that this area would be, and no doubt all of you will be advocating to rezone it to rural living when the community is consulted on the planning scheme. It's a tricky one here because the planning side of me is in agreement with Bronwyn. It does meet the guidelines, but I think in this case we are all really passionate about protecting our community and our way of life and the feel of, and that's why we've put so much money into our planning scheme review, is because we want to rectify our planning scheme and protect our way of life. So in a roundabout way, I'm speaking for Councillor Bray's motion. I think we've got a number of examples of this in Clunes. The Fairview estate is another example that's being cut up into tiny little pieces when it probably shouldn't be. And then we've got an unusual rural living zone area in Island Street, Oriental Street, which are 1 acre lots, but rural living zone. So there's some weird stuff in Clunes, but I think ultimately we need to protect the size lots of our community and our the country feel of these areas, because that's why we moved here in the first place. As many of the objectors said, you know, we don't move to these areas in order to have a 10-lot subdivision pop up in front of us. So I think that's probably enough. I'll let someone else speak.
Thanks, Councillor Halliday. Mr. Thomas has suggested that a councillor may like to move a suspension of standing orders at this stage. Does anyone have it? Councillor Hood?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll so move that we suspend standing orders.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Simpson, thank you very much. I have a motion that standing orders be suspended. All those in favour, raise your hand. Councillor Hood, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray, Councillor Dryling and myself, Councillor Hewitt. So the motion is carried that standing orders be suspended. So Mr. White, can you stop the live streaming, please? I'll just advise the community that